This sounded so good to me, I had to let y'all hear.
Closers. Welcome back to another episode of Who the Fuck Closed Last Night. This one is really special to us. We've got our boy Tom Berger, who created all of our artwork, all of our logos. This man is an incredible artist inspired by D&D and fantasy art. You can catch his murals throughout Denver, his girlfriend's murals throughout Denver. We're going to have a little conversation about what it's like to be an artist in the industry and how the industry improves your art, as well as just what it is to be an artist and the struggles that they go through. All right, let's get it going. All right, guys, welcome in. We have a special guest today. All of you guys have seen our incredible artwork, Who the Fuck Closed Last Night artwork. This is the artist himself, Tom Berger. He is an incredible artist and also a bartender at Postino. Yeah. First off, man, thanks for what you created. It's insane.
Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, thank you for the opportunity because, you get a lot of commissions where it's like, you should be grateful for any art commissions you get, but sometimes you just don't want to do them. This one, we talked about like 80s comic book inspiration, high fantasy adventure style. Right. And that's the stuff I love. So this was really fun to do. I love doing this one.
Dude, when I first saw it, it reminded me of being a child and looking at it like a NES game. And the cover art being just so sick.
Yeah.
And me being like, oh, this game's going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah. And then the game sucks.
The game sucks.
yeah, no, for sure, dude. Yeah.
But the artwork is so cool.
I think that was especially the case once I did the type and the font and all that.
Yes.
Yes. I added a bunch of like fake rock effect to some of the, like, I forget, maybe it's the like who the fuck at the top, but it's like orange and like dimpled and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's like something you saw in the late 80s, early 90s,
100%. Yeah. Oh, dude, it was so cool. And it was so fun to see your, I guess we'll start with the artwork first, the art you made for us first. We didn't give you too much to work with. I think we just said, can you make Jacob and I look like fucking just jacked fucking knights fighting off things in the industry.
Yeah.
And I think that's all we gave you.
Yeah, dude. Yes. So the thing about commissioning art, the best thing you can do, I'd say 80% of the time, is to not give much direction.
Right.
Let's say you're going to a tattoo artist and you just want a tattoo. The best thing you can do is, and you like the artist. That's the first thing. If you don't like the art, it's going to suck. But if you like the artist and you like their art, the best thing you can do is just be like, dude, give me something cool.
Right.
And you're going to like it if you like their style because they're going to have fun doing it. You know? It's just like work. Like if someone's micromanaging you, you do shitty work and you don't care, But with this, like you guys just told me, and we talked about inspirations like Frank Frazetta and 80s comics, and like that's already kind of in my style. Just probably a little more heavy ink style than Frazetta for sure. But like this pose, the pose that Jacob is in is 100% stolen from Frank Frazetta's piece, The Destroyer. Like it's this dude at the top of like a pile of corpses with an axe,
Yes.
And so I kind of just started there. And then, just went on. And I remember I talked to, you and some people that we worked with at the bar because I'd drawn, the heroic version of you and the heroic version of Jacob, and was like, now what the fuck do I do? Right. Because I knew we wanted, like, we had kind of talked about it like a little bit, like maybe people putting their hands up for like, can I get a drink, or like maybe tickets, because you're getting tickets and you're trying to get through the rush.
Sure.
But then one day I thought it was a dumb idea. I was telling a bartender that me and you work with, and I was like, I was thinking maybe they're just like fighting off like condiments and stuff that we work with. And she was like, dude, that's a cool idea. And then I thought about it because I'd been thinking about it for weeks, and I was like, "This is a dumb idea, and I'm not going to do it." And then she was like, "It's a cool idea." And sometimes that's all I need is a little bit of like someone being like, "Yeah, it's cool,"
No,
you
do
know?
that. Yeah.
And I just ran with it, and it was I was like, "Why didn't I do this when I thought of it?" So,
Bro, it is, and you know, I've had several people tell me. We had Bailey say this, but also a friend of mine last night. I had dinner and drinks with a buddy I hadn't seen in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Showed him your artwork, and he kept zooming in, and he was like, dude, the more I look at this, like the more little stuff I just see, which is so cool about it, that you're just like, the first glance, you miss a lot of stuff until you start to like really see every creature and how much detail you put into each horrifying condiment fork, the soda gun attacking, and then this like fountain of life in a coupe glass.
Yeah.
Just so rad, dude.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just like with any high fantasy adventure thing. It's like the battles and the stuff is cool, but the real cool part is like when you get to watch the adventure and like, you know, look beyond the mountains. Like, you know, Lord of the Rings are going to the Misty Mountains. You're like, what's beyond that? You know, and
Right.
stuff like that. So I wanted to give it a bit of that element where you're like, oh, there's an adventure going on here. Like maybe they're trying to get to this like forever flowing coupe or whatever, you know?
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's cool. I'm going to hold it up if that's cool.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah.
See it. Because, as you guys can see, this is the inked version. We can, well, hopefully, I think we were discussing, we will hopefully have you at Occidental soon, put some color on that one, which should be fucking sick.
Yeah, it's so funny how I do my art, because I think a lot of artists would see it as just a ton more work than it's supposed to be.
Uh-huh.
But I like to like fully ink a piece before I paint it, and that's getting into like nerdy art stuff. But I think it kind of muddies the values and gives it like I don't know. It just really reminds me of like 80s comics where you get this crazy value range from like dark browns to bright blues, you know, and
right,
stuff like that. So
well, let's dive into your technique. Let's get into who you are as an artist. What is your like? Because the color palette for this is incredible.
Oh, the digital colored?
Yeah, dude, it's so sick. It's so unique.
Yeah.
But yeah, what is your process? Why do you describe yourself as like putting too much work in? Is it part of your thought process, thought of working through a piece?
To be honest, I mean, yeah, there's two reasons for that. One is just myself as a person. I'm like as chaotic and messy as you guys know me. I'm very afraid of like the next step in anything. Uh-huh. So I like to like super plan it out.
Right.
And it you know, the ink is like, this is a finished piece essentially, right? If you were just going to turn this in as an ink thing, and that way I feel like in my mind I can fall back on that. Like if I just did like a wash of color over this, it would still be a finished piece.
Sure.
And so I think it's kind of like me being afraid in one sense, you know? Uh-huh. But yeah, like for example, if any other artist were to do this piece and then fully paint it, they would probably just do pencil and then come in with paint, and where all that black is, like maybe they would do an underpainting of like, you know, dark umber or dark blue, and then they'd paint on top of it,
Gotcha.
which would take way less time. This is stupid how much time this takes. But in the end, it's kind of cool because I get, you know, if I remember, which often I don't, if I remember to take a scan or a good enough photo of the ink, then I kind of have two pieces where I can make either prints of it or nowadays make more content.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of why I'm always like, this is such a dumb process, you know? Like, yeah, I posted one of my drawings on Reddit one time, and it was like, you know, it was a character from an IP that their, you know, Reddit was based on. I was like, here's my version of this character. I know it sounds ridiculous, but this will be painted over soon. And haven't posted back in like 5 months because it's taking me forever, Yeah.
I get it, man. Now your style is also so unique. One of the reasons that like it was so obvious that we needed to use you was I was already a huge fan of the style that you have, which is this like fantasy D&D, old school folklore comic stuff. How did you? Where did you start? Is that where your inspiration started? How did you first get inspired?
Man, yeah. I guess so. Actually, when I was younger, that was like what art was to me. It was like, I mean, initially it was, I would go out on my trampoline when I was growing up and just like pretend to be in a story, and I would like, go back to my mom and like tell her all these stories and these characters, and then I'd be like, I just have to show you, this like guy in my head or these like people. So I'd like draw them out, and then my brother started really getting into drawing with one of his friends, and they would draw these like ant wars, and so I started getting to that, and that's where I think you get the like, you can find little odd details and stuff, because I would just like hide, little stories inside of this big grand thing. And so like the beginning, young art was very much inspired by like story and narrative and bringing characters to life.
Yeah.
But then I'd say my teenage years, I went off in a fully, during, just like drugs and girls and all these things, brought a whole new world of art to me, and just kind of thought I was too cool for a bit. And once I feel like I've landed back where I was when I was young.
Really?
Yeah. Honestly, like, for the longest time, I think I was just trying to like be more conceptual and stuff.
Gotcha.
And it was nice. I think it was more therapeutic in a way. But, especially in modern times, like the need for escapism is real. And, just getting back to that, like creating fun characters and stories is, it's just so fun and
I think
enjoyable.
That's fascinating how you're, I think we talked about this a little bit before, where when you're a young teenager, you also like want to be a part of this counterculture. I really want to make a statement.
Yeah.
Like I really want to like, but I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because I am still just a kid, even though I think I'm an adult, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm going to like change the world with this ironic thing this weird thing that I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But you gravitating back to like telling stories through your art is fascinating, that you're wanting to have stories being told within your art.
Yeah. I love the idea that someone could look at my art and could create their own narrative.
Yeah.
Like with this coupe glass flowing, or like there's a piece behind us for anyone just listening where it's like a lady, she's in armor and she has this like, there's rose motifs and she's got a hammer that has like a rose head on it,
Yeah.
And it's like, why does she have a dinosaur skull on her shoulder? You
Right.
know? Like where does she live? Where you get that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoy that idea because that's what I used to do when I was young,
Sure.
Like with the NES video game covers.
Oh yeah.
Like I feel like I would get more enjoyment out of looking at this cool art and thinking about how cool it is, because once I popped in the game sucked,
Right.
and was not like that at all.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and you also engage other people's imagination, but by doing that, which is, I love that it's also you keep gravitating back towards being that kid on that trampoline, like just playing, because in the end, I think true artists realize that we're all just kind of trying to get back to that sense of wonder that we had when we were kids.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
Which is what usually inspires you to be an artist, and try to, instead of trying to make grand things, I think it is all down to like, how do I connect that joy that I had?
Yeah.
That's not a question. I'm just saying that.
No. It makes me really, really think about it. Like, I do feel like, if you follow a passion in yourself, this might sound so dumb, but if you follow like, that that reason why you would want to create whatever it is, I think you do find generally, and with any kind of art, you kind of go back to that younger self. Because creating does feel very childlike. You know, it's creating is like exploring, it's experimenting. And, you know, I teach after school art, and like that's what I see a lot of kids doing. And that's when they make the coolest stuff to me, is when they're just like, hey, you know, teacher, I was just trying this out and I think it's so sick. And I'm like, dude, it is so sick.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I don't know. Like,
That's
we were talking about it earlier with food. Food is an amazing art form.
Sure.
It's one of those that like I like almost don't want to know too much about, because I feel like I know a lot about like art and I know a little bit about music, but it's something that I can appreciate just from the fact of just from eating it or just from viewing it, you know?
Sure.
Like with art, I appreciate it for multiple reasons. Like I can see the technique, I can understand the process, and I can enjoy the viewing of it. But food, I know nothing about it, so I can just enjoy it as it is.
Yeah.
And I watch a lot of like food YouTube.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys that run these Michelin-starred restaurants talk about like, oh yeah, so this is my favorite entree in the restaurant, and it's inspired by what my mom used to make, or what my grandma used to make, you know, or what my dad used to make. And it's like, I don't know, there's something about that spark you get when you're young.
Yeah.
And it's always there.
Right.
You know, and
right.
if you can feed it or not, you know.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is it is, you know, because you can get so wrapped up in the technique of learning your craft, which is so important. I mean, you're going to start with imitation, you know, but like getting back to finding your voice can be so difficult if you get so wrapped up in the technique of everything, the business of everything. You start to get frustrated and you forget to let go and have fun, and that's when the coolest art happens.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that movie, The Menu?
Mm-mm.
You should check it out.
Yeah.
It's a horror industry. What? Yeah, it's awesome. It's very violent.
Great idea.
And I can't spoil it for you. There's a moment that's very simplistic.
Ben's saying it sucks.
Yeah. You didn't like it, Ben?
No, I thought it was so fucking dumb.
I fucking loved every moment.
He's like Tyler's bullshit food menu item.
Amazing. Yeah, I think it's incredible. But it does like go. There's an element of it that speaks to how if you get so wrapped up in the approval of others for your art, that you start to realize, and this is true in any art world, whether it's music, if you're trying to please the most snobby assholes, you're going to end up miserable.
Yeah.
You know, you got to also do it for yourself.
Yeah, it's wild, dude. It's that, like, it's all a balance, right? Like, David Lynch was notorious for making his best work when he had no constraints. But also, David Lynch is kind of a crazy example, because it's like his best work, air quotes, like, it's some people that find his most avant-garde stuff is his best work, you know, which is debatable, right? For whoever you are, but he was known for not working so well under constraints. You know, I think that's why like Dune, his version of Dune sucked, was because he was trying to make this like Hollywood blockbuster movie, and he had kind of people telling him what to do, and you know, he just wanted to make a Dune movie, you know. But then it comes into like, you got to make money, you know, and it's like, but I found myself when I am doing a thing for money, or it's something that I don't feel like I'm enjoying so much, I mean, two things. I try to use it as like, I don't know, like a challenge. Like, you know, you rock climb, right? Like maybe there's a route that you don't enjoy much, but it's challenging on something you suck at.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and so it's teaching you something about your craft and to get better. So I do that a lot. Like if I'm doing, you know, portraits or pet portraits and stuff like that, I don't necessarily love doing them, but when I'm about 3/4 done, I find the enjoyment in trying to make an awesome piece, you know? But the other thing about that is also, yeah, it's always like a balance. It's like, you know, a meditation almost, where it's also the less you think about the outcome, the better it's going to be.
Right.
Because I don't know what it is. I'm not going to pretend I know, but something about that where you're like, you know, I'll sit down and I'll put on some of my favorite music and I'll get really deep in my feelings or deep in my, you know, sense of self-worth and like sit down and sketch out a piece.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, dude, this piece is going to be sick. It's going to be my masterpiece.
Right.
And I found whenever I do that, that piece sucks and I hate it, you know?
For
But
sure.
it's the ones that I've just sat down and I just feel like I need to draw or I need to paint and I need to, you know, just enjoy it. Those ones are always my favorite.
Yeah, dude.
You know?
Yeah.
And something about that, just doing the thing.
Man, that is something that's actually, there's a similarity in acting with that 100%, where, and you have to learn this, learn this pretty quickly, but if you try to plan out moments while you're in a performance, like, oh, at this moment I'm going to react exactly this way.
Yeah.
And, oh, this is going to be the moment that I really hit that line that really gets people. There may be other actors that quote with me, but based off of the technique that I've learned and how I've honed it in now, I can't. That sets me up for failure.
Yeah.
Because then I forget to listen, I forget to be in the moment, and I forget to let go. If you plan too much, then you can't let go, and you can't let cool shit happen. My favorite moments acting are moments that I had no idea that response was going to come out of me, or somebody else's response hit me in a way that changes the dynamic and had something that wasn't on the page suddenly come into reality. And if you're not open to those moments, if you're trying to plan it all out and like, then it's just gonna, it's just not, it's gonna disappoint you. You know?
Dude, I would 100% agree with that and can understand that, especially with acting, because it's something that's like so fluid and so in the moment and so like reactionary. You know, like with making a dish or making a song or painting, whatever, you plan it out, you make a base and plan it out.
Right.
But there is definitely something to that in each of those, of that spontaneity and bringing that soul to it. It's kind of like, you know, you hear it a lot in like the sports world. You know, I used to snowboard a lot, and like my brother, he coached snowboarding, and he would give me like a bunch of, you know, tips, like, hey, you know, bend your knees when you're on the rail, and you look over this shoulder and stuff like that.
Right.
And they're obviously good tips. Like
Sure.
they put your body in the right position to do this trick or do this thing. But then you also have to, again, find that balance of like you're thinking about those things, but then your brain is empty to react physically to what's going on. And it's like, if you can keep that balance, then you're doing the trick, you know?
Right.
And it's, I'm sure, especially with acting, because it's more physical, but kind of, you know, with painting as well, like you got to be in that balance of knowing, like I'm in this issue right now where I'm trying to add a lot of different light sources, because I'm finding it fun to just add a lot of different color to my shadows. And so if there's, you know, a different weaker light source, the shadow is brightened by that color. And but what's screwing me up is I think too much about it. It's kind of, I don't want to get too technical, but like I think too much about the shadow as I'm laying in the darkest parts of my shadow. And then I won't paint that opposite side where the colored light is supposed to come through, and then I'll just get it all in my head about it. And so I'm trying to find that balance again, where it's just like, just paint and paint and paint, and then when you get to that part, you'll paint and paint and paint it.
Yeah.
Don't try to plan it out too much, and don't try to think about why you're doing the other thing. You know, stay on subject of what you're working on. It's wild how all those things kind of balance out. You know, how they're like, they all have a middle ground of like finding, I hate saying this term, but finding that like flow state.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh, 100%.
Where you're just feeling it, you're just doing it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult. I completely agree. Well, and speaking of balance, let's talk about a little bit of balance between being an artist and being able to pay your bills.
Yeah.
How did you get into the service industry?
Yeah, so it was kind of COVID, because before like working as a bartender or a server, I'd mostly done like construction, and then I did like some teaching, and but mostly construction and like labor jobs. And the thing about those jobs is the hours, right? Like, yeah, you just can't, like, I mean, you can. And I know some artists that have gone from full-on construction labor to now doing full-on art and amazing work. So it's doable for sure. But I just suck. And so, I'd get home on Fridays or whatever. And a lot of my work that I did when I did construction, it was like, we didn't work at home. We'd have to go somewhere and stay in a hotel and, do the whole like per diem thing. So then we'd have to drive back on Friday nights. And like Saturday was just my day to be like, dude, I'm going to just not do anything for a whole day.
You're exhausted.
Yeah, because you're exhausted or whatever. And then Sunday I would try to get in some art. And, every once in a while, like I'd go on streaks where I'd be like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'd get a little bit of art done after work. But, you want to put in those long hours when you're doing construction because you get that good money. And it was kind of nice because in the winters there was less work. So, you'd have time to just like do art and whatnot. But yeah, and then that was when I was living in Glenwood. But then when I moved to Denver, yeah, I just, what was the first restaurant job? It was Modern Market. So I moved to Denver. I was supposed to go teach in Chile, and that's like a whole thing. But like the airport, the day I was supposed to fly out, it got militarized because they were having all these crazy protests, which it ended up being a good thing because I stayed in Denver, I saw like a help wanted sign outside of a Modern Market, like near my cousin's house who I was staying with. Yeah. Shout out to them for letting me live in their basement for a while. And I started working there, and then COVID hit like a few months after.
Right. And
I have a friend, she's actually my girlfriend's business partner, and she worked at Postino before.
Gotcha.
And she was like, hey, the world's opening back up. They need extra SA because they had the bamboo patio. So, so the restaurant we work at pretty much had double the patio, so they needed an extra busser. And so I got hired on, and ever since then, just fell in love with the scheduling, man. Like,
right.
Yeah. And especially here, like Postino is very nice. I think maybe after all the years we've given them, they've been very nice about, about what your schedule needs are. And
that flexibility is like so important to artists. I mean, that was the same thing for me when I started getting into it, was the ability to be like, hey man, I need to take 2-3 weeks off.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I know I said I was available this day, I'm not. Or having something spur of the moment come up that you're like, I can call some homies and get this shift covered so that I can end up doing this thing that's more important, or well, not more important, but no, more important, with my art than work. And people are completely understanding and embracing of that.
Totally.
Which is huge.
Yeah. No, I didn't understand the whole like bartender artist thing for so long, and now it makes total sense. Like,
right.
a lot of artists I look up to, I didn't even know, but they're like other regular jobs or like either bartending or like delivery stuff, and it's because if you have a project that took an extra day, or like I know in the summers, like you guys see it, I put up all my shifts all the time because like it was last July I had that big mural, and there was no way I could have gotten that done if I had another job.
Sure. Right.
And then that comes with the other thing. It's like there's no way I could have survived if I didn't have bartending though.
Right.
It's tough.
Right, which is there's people many times like glorify the struggling artist thing of like, oh man, you live on next to nothing, and that's how you get inspired. There's nothing inspiring about being hungry, you know. Like there's nothing inspiring about worrying if you can pay your rent.
Yeah.
Like that just adds stress, and it's harder, at least for me, it's harder to create and not worry about my art when I'm worried about all these other existential things that could be painful.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that is kind of a funny thing. The like starving artist thing. I mean, in one way, it's correct. If you're gonna want to like make a lot of art, you're not gonna be making a lot of money.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
But yeah, you don't have to starve.
No.
Yeah, you just got to put some time into other stuff. We're in such a weird time for art right now, especially because social media, like, I don't know.
You have more opportunity to be seen, but you're also like now in an ocean that was a pool, you know?
Yeah.
It's like getting, like before, if you got noticed, well, then there's only a small amount of people that notice you. But now there's millions of people that are also doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. And yeah, some of them are just doing it way better. But there's a thing, and I think this has been talked about to death, but it's like the balance between creating your art and then creating content for it. And I mean, there's thousands of people that do both very well, like some amazing art, and they're just producing it on social media all the time, and it's awesome to see. But then I see some artists, and I often wonder if it's like, and I'm not saying this out of like I don't know, like some artists I see that they're doing a style of art where I'm like, is that really what you want to be doing? And they're making content every day. And I just wonder, if it's like, is that what you really want to be doing with your art?
Sure.
I don't know. It's a weird thing to parse out. Is it, it's kind of like golden handcuffs. Like you're making art, you're making money, you're making a name for yourself.
Yeah.
But you're kind of married to this thing and this audience, And I don't know. I find it. I've been thinking about this a lot just because there's like a trend going on Instagram where people are like turning around their art and saying like, I hope you, I don't know what it says, but it's like, I hope you like my art. I need you to see my art to pay my bills because I'm not some Basquiat lookalike or whatever.
Right.
I don't know if you're familiar with
I've seen
Jean-Michel
yeah.
Basquiat. He's an amazing guy, did amazing art, but there are like, I'm guessing from this thing, a lot of people are copying his stuff.
Sure.
Now there is one guy on Instagram that I've seen who he'll do like 5x9 like commissions and for thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Or $1,000 or whatever. And they look like Basquiat,
Wow.
And I had this, I found that through that rabbit hole. I was like, why are people saying they're not like a Basquiat copy? What the frick is going on?
Yeah.
And, I found this guy and like, it just, it made me wonder, like, is that what he really wants to be doing? Because he seems like an artist who wants to say something, who wants to, be something. And it's kind of the same thing that happened to Basquiat in a way, where Basquiat was very much like, I mean, he was a poor, struggling artist, and he, had this crazy upbringing with like a father that definitely didn't want him to do this stuff and wanted him to like conform to, white New York at that time. And his mom was like, your art's awesome, and like, and then, I don't know. I don't know his full story, but from what I can surmise, like he kind of got picked up, and almost like not exploited, but just like Andy Warhol kind of was like, yeah, look, I'm back in the art scene, the young art scene. Yeah, it's just such a weird story. And it seemed like by the end of his life, which was a young life, he was like trying to look for like support from his father and being like, dude, I'm really rich and I'm making $1 million a year. And his dad was still like, I don't care, and it's like, I don't know why I'm going on that rant, but it's like, there's such a depth to that story and to the art he was making. And he was trying all this new stuff, and he had like this street art crew. I think it was just one other guy he was doing this stuff with, and just like making this new style, and then they kind of broke off and all that stuff. And then there's this guy or group of people, I guess, on Instagram making like Basquiat-esque stuff. And sorry, I'm really going on.
I'm enjoying every moment of it.
But there's two sides of my brain to this where it's like, that's cool. He's put his mark on society, and he definitely changed art, in the 80s and stuff. And like, we're kind of going through a similar political thing that they were going through with like Reagan and like this far right swing, But then the other part of my brain is like, it's just, God, I'm gonna sound like an asshole, but it's like, you're just like recycling this stuff to keep making this daily content. And I'm not saying my stuff is any cooler. Like, mine is almost like just copies of Frazetta stuff, just bigger muscles and more homoerotic. But I don't know. It's a weird spot to be in, because the inspiration is definitely there and it's cool and good to see. Yeah. But then at the same time, I'm like, is your voice in this at all?
Yeah. Like, where is your voice in art? Replication's cool, but, and even if it sells, it's like how different are you than, not to throw any shit. Look, I don't know much about art. I'm gonna be real right now.
Right.
But how many times have you been walking down like a huge art fair, and then there's every other booth is just somebody doing portraits of James Dean and Marilyn Monroe and like Elvis, and it's like, I know you're doing this because this sells, for sure.
Yeah.
But there's a guy 3 places down that y'all's shit almost looks the exact same, dog.
Right.
Like, and where's your soul in that?
Yeah.
I get, like you said, it's like, there's part of that is like, look, man, you're trying to get clicks, you're trying to make money.
Yeah.
But it does feel empty, a little bit.
It's weird, because then it gets an argument of like, but why should we care? Because they're making money,
Sure.
And if they are doing portraits of James Dean and it's selling, it's like, they're just smart,
right.
I guess.
Right.
I don't know. It's weird. Like, I think about it a lot, because a lot of the artists that I know that are successful are people that kind of found art on accident or later in life. Because I think we always hear this thing. It's even similar in a lot of the artists I look up to, where they were drawing from a young age. You hear these stories. They had a paintbrush in their hand before they like blah blah blah. But it seems to be, I don't know if it's a modern thing or just the people I know in the art world around Denver, like, they found it late in life, and it was after either like a traumatic event, like a brain injury, or just feeling stuck in a career, or some sort of travel. And these people were like, mid-30s or a little bit younger, and then they just changed their life, and they found success in art. And they have a real passion for it.
Yeah.
And something about that has been really inspiring me lately, because it's nice to see that fresh, kind of back to what we were saying, like that childlike spark. They like found that again in something.
Yeah.
And they remembered like, oh, I used to see the world in a different way. And chasing money or stability, kind of did something else to me. And now I remember, like, what I really want to do, and they've made it work, which is cool.
Right.
And I don't want to say to everyone like it can work if you just find your childlike passion. Like,
Sure. Yeah.
I almost say it won't, but just enjoy it. Just do it because you want to, and yeah, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, and it sounds like those people also have they have something to say, they have something to talk about in their art,
They have experience.
Yeah, 100%, like
Yeah.
life experience, and it is. I mean, I think that I mean, you've seen that Banksy documentary, Exit Through the Gift Shop, I'm sure.
I don't think I have, actually.
Oh man,
Yeah.
so it's made by Banksy. And he has this guy that followed him around, him and I forget the guy's name, the Obey dude.
Have I seen it? Shepard Fairey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this guy would follow them around and like film all these street artists, and said he was going to make this like epic documentary.
Yeah.
And then it turned out he was pretty much full of shit. But
Nice.
then he started replicating all of their artwork and doing their style stuff, and started making a ton of money. He even did like the cover art for like one of Madonna's albums, like in like the late 2000s or something like that, right?
So awesome.
So the whole documentary is Banksy struggling with what truly is art.
Yeah.
And like it's so easy. It's also his first inclination is like, God, fuck this guy. He's just stealing like our style, and just doing a bunch of, stick-on prints and stuff like that. But like also, I don't know, man. He hung out with us and he's making money. So like, do I consider that art? I don't. What is art, man?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And what is an artist? Like, it's so varied, dude.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Like, whenever I see, like, don't get me wrong, I love me like a lol cow, just talking shit about someone online. But whenever I see it, my first thought is always like, why are they doing this? And yeah, I don't know, like people just copying this Basquiat-esque style, like maybe that's just how they found art, and they'll find something cool,
Right.
And
Right.
or yeah, but I think that's the trouble we see with social media is like, yeah, you just want like social media growth, and which I get, dude. I suck at social media. I would love some growth on there, but like, I just suck at it. But yeah, you see someone doing it that way and it works for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's like, is that bad?
Is it?
You know?
Right.
Or are you just smarter than me?
Yeah.
Could
be. And are you going to, I mean, the beginning when you are learning art, it is a lot of replicating things that you like and see, and
100%.
And then I think that there's for some of the great artists, it's that moment that you find your own voice, and maybe you even do something like a Pollock or Picasso and throw away your entire style.
Yeah.
I've now exhausted
Yeah.
the artists I know. Picasso.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get into this conversation. Like, I honestly, the other day was like on a YouTube art documentary rabbit hole. So I think I've like primed my brain. I shouldn't have done that now that I'm thinking about it. But
No, please, yeah.
yeah, do you know this is... So there's a painter, Lucian Freud.
I don't know.
I think he was like Sigmund Freud's like step nephew or something. Like he was somehow related.
Okay, yeah.
But he was one of my favorite painters when I was young. Like he's just does these crazy portraits, but he does these awesome self-portraits.
Mm.
And they're really like grimy, and like he doesn't put any warm tones in skin. Like they're very like gray and green and kind of gnarly.
Yeah.
But we watched this thing about him at the college I went to. We watched like a little documentary about him, and it was just so cool. And the reason it was so cool is because like he has this huge portfolio. Like he wasn't a famous painter until like his last like 2 years of life or something, or like 10 years. But he was prolific in how much art he created. But he has this vast portfolio you can look at, and you can see his growth from like his 20s to older.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea or the feeling, and he did find his voice and his style when he was younger, but it's really crystallized when he was in his like twilight years, when he was very old. And there's something, I don't know if it's just because we're getting older that I like this, but I liked even when I was 18 when I watched that documentary. There's something really rich about that. It's almost like they make like kimchi or like gochujang, like you leave it out, and like sometimes the longer you leave it out, it's like more rich. I don't know if kimchi, but I might just be speaking out my ass with all that. But it's something you've aged, but it's not a thing. It's a technique and a voice.
Right.
And for it to not dwindle.
But it continues to grow.
Yeah.
And change.
Yeah.
But grow as well.
And I think that's rare, right? Because we see, I don't even know why I'm talking about this, but we see that like other artists, they'll like pop when they're younger, depending, like I'm trying to think of an artist that's like not as good as they once were. But I don't want to disparage anyone because they're all cool people. But like I don't know, like I haven't read any of Stephen King's late stuff, but maybe it's amazing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But like,
sure.
There is that like, they're good, and then people start to dislike their stuff, and that makes me really sad because it's like, no, this person's like working on their technique, and it's all concentrating to all their technique and their skill and their experience, and it should make this beautiful thing. But it's like we're just humans, and we just degrade.
Right.
And everything we do can just degrade.
Sure.
But the cool thing about Lucian Freud is like, it just crystallized. It came out to some crazy portraits that are awesome.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, it's inspiring as well. You know, that you can continue to grow. Moving it back to service industry.
Sorry.
No, I enjoyed. No, this. I've enjoyed this entire conversation. I want to continue to go down these rabbit holes because I love rabbit holes. Fair. I have a rabbit.
Oh yeah, you do.
I do. We're going to talk about the rabbit for 10 minutes. No, I remember we had a conversation. That before the like you're a hilarious dude, and you seem very outgoing when I first met you. But we had a conversation where you told me that the service industry kind of brought you out of your social shell because you were forced to.
Yes, 100%, dude. Yeah. So, dude, I don't know. My brain's just broken, dude, because I can talk to people. Like, I'm comfortable talking to people, and I always have been. But I suck at approaching people. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were kind of talking. So this studio is in a warehouse, and there's like a full office outside from where we are, and then a warehouse on the other side.
Right.
I bet you 2 people know who I am in this building. And it's because I don't approach people. I hate approaching people. I hate going up and talking to people. But once I know you, I am very outgoing. I can almost be too much, like, but I'm like one of those dogs that like I cling to my people. If I know you, I'll talk to you. But with the service industry, dude, like you have to approach people.
Right.
That's the job. You got to go to a table. You got to say hi.
Yeah. Because at first when you were an essay, you can kind of still stay in that bubble because 100%. You're just bussing and you're just putting your nose down and like hustling. But when you get into that server role, that's it. Your job is to go up to that table within 30 seconds.
Yes. But it helped me actually a lot because, let's say I'm at like an event and I'm, tabling or I'm live painting, or those are the only 2 things I do. I don't know, or whatever. It helped me get that like sales pitch in. Where like you have your thing that when you go to a table, you tell them this part of the menu, you tell them the specials, you have your thing down. And I've done that with, going to tabling and all that stuff. And even with applying to things, I think about that, like how do I break this selling of my art down and of my portfolio? And I do the same thing, but it's just, about myself and not about a menu at Postino. Excuse me. And so, yeah, it's really helped. Like, I'll, people be walking by the table and they're like, oh, what's this? And I can give them the breakdown, or I can be that annoying guy now where someone will be right next to my table and they'll be turned around and be like, hey, and then I can go into that pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, dude, it's really helped. Like, I've noticed at any of those kind of events that if you do not like almost pester people, like anyone that walks by, you just say hi to, you just let them know you're alive.
Right.
You never know if you can get a sell.
Yeah.
And definitely running down that list that you make up in your head for yourself helps a lot.
For sure. Because
Yeah.
it is, a part of the service industry, you are not only approaching people, but you are, you're kind of putting on a mask for a little bit. Like you're presenting yourself to them for sure, but you are doing a performance, and and unfortunately, dead on when you're talking about like for acting, the similar thing would be going to like a screening or something where you're supposed to network, and all networking is really just being real and talking to people. But you do have to be able to know your pitch about yourself and be able to do it in a way that doesn't sound like, it's all good. That doesn't sound like you're fake.
Yeah.
You have to be real with it.
Yeah, dude. Oh man, this is another rabbit hole I've been going down. I watch a lot of YouTube. Listen to a lot of YouTube. I'll just be drawn listening, and there's a UFC fighter. Fuck, I'm gonna fuck his name up. Ilya Topuria. Do you know the guy?
Sounds familiar.
I think he's undefeated, right?
Okay.
But crazy fights. But I just watched this YouTube documentary about him, and his whole thing was his mindset. He would go into a fight, and I think a lot of fighters do this or say this, where they're like, "Oh, I know I'm gonna beat this guy," but he knew he was gonna beat this guy.
Right.
Like, he was already celebrating the victory, kind of, in a way, you know?
Yeah.
And when he goes out there, like, he's also just a really good fighter. Like, he just smashed the fuck out of people, dude. Like, it's insane. But what I took away from that, because, I'm surrounded by a lot of successful artists, and, like, my girlfriend, fiance, whatever you want to say, she is very successful comparatively in what I would say, in art, and her business partner are. And she has this mindset of, I'm just going to do it and figure it out as I do it. I'm just going to, because, you can't be good at something until you try it.
Sure.
And I'm the opposite. I'm like, I got to be good at something and like practice in a dark corner before I can be like, hey, look what I did, And she's the opposite, and she just does it, and she just, has that belief in herself.
Yeah.
And I've watched it take her from echelon to echelon. And, I watched that documentary, and just hearing him say, I went into it with confidence, and like all it is like believing in myself. And I just think about myself. I don't have that a single iota, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, my art is almost created on the fact that I don't think I can do anything, you know? And so, yeah, I don't know. Connecting that back to the service industry, though, is like, I go to my tables or go to a bar patron.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of the word.
Yeah.
Or something, knowing that I've done it because I've done it so many times. And I just go in there with complete confidence, because I'm like, dude, if I fuck this up, I can fall back on my lines,
Sure.
blah, blah, blah. I know what I need to do.
Right.
And yeah, I thought about that. I was like, why don't I just connect that with art? Like, I've done it a bunch. I've done the things that could make me, a bit of cash.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think just bringing that mentality into it could add a lot.
Oh yeah,
But,
no, absolutely.
yeah.
Of knowing that you're the expert, like that's kind of the thing of
Yeah.
like when you go up to a table, knowing that you're the expert of that. I think that there's, especially when you're early. I think this is advice for any artists, but also people in the service industry in general. We've talked actually on this podcast about how confidence is so key for getting a job in the service industry.
Yeah.
Walking in and being like, you know what, I can do this, and I know I'm going to be able to do this, and you should give me a shot. But also, there's something about artists in the service industry where you second guess yourself because you're still having to work that service industry job. And
Yeah.
you know, and I it took me years, but there was like somebody that it was one of my early acting directors. I had just got my first paid gig, and I was like, man, I just can't wait till I can call myself like a professional actor. And she was like, Chad, you just got a paycheck
Yeah.
for acting.
Yeah.
You are a professional actor. Now, it still took me, I'd say like 7 years to like walk onto a set confidently and walk into an audition knowing that I knew what I was doing and not having that imposter syndrome, which is just plagues all artists and people in general.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But having that confidence of just being like, man, yeah, I bartend these weeks, but you know what? I've got a gig coming up, and I am a professional.
Yeah.
For yourself, like, yeah, I bartended Postino, but you know what? I'm a fucking professional artist. I make murals across the city, dog.
Yeah, dude. It is great. I mean, you'd worked professionally for a few years.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Doing voice acting and whatnot.
Yeah,
Like,
I did like probably 15 years total, like voice acting and film and everything.
Yeah. Do you still feel the imposter syndrome?
Not anymore.
Smart. Yeah.
Not anymore. But I did for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
That only happened after I really built confidence. And frankly, now it was like it's because I don't give a shit about what other people think about my art now.
Yeah.
And it goes back to like near the end, I knew I had confidence when I would go into auditions, but there was still that stress of like getting the big gig or getting the big movie or whatever, that thing that would push me over the top to where I no longer had to work a day job. Mm-hmm. And then COVID actually caused me to take a pause because the industry shut down. I moved up here, had left my agency, and didn't act for like a year and a half, 2 years. And then the first audition I finally got, I was like, dude, I get to just have fun again and relax. And whether I get this or not, I do not care at all. I'm doing this for me.
Yeah.
And then I did get it, but even getting to carry that onto set and being like, dude, I'm just happy I'm here.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to have fun. And it went back to that kid-like joy of just like, I get to play again, man. I get to be on this playground.
Yeah.
And as an artist, getting back to that point of like, because you can't get so wrapped up in the stress of everything, you know, of that next gig, that next mural. Mm-hmm. I think you just went through something recently where, you know.
Yeah, dude.
Want to talk a little bit about that if you...
Yeah. That project. So I got this project, and it was like, the budget was $10,000. So I was going to get paid $10,000, or, you know, be some overhead to build this like installation at this crypto convention thing. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then, I'd quit at Postino for the time being.
Right.
I thought it was going to be way longer. But yeah, you know, it was like a month later after I'd sent in my pitch and everything, they got back to me and said, hey, you know, the budget, it was cut by 2/3, and it was knocking me $10,000. It was like $2,000. It was just, you know, it was a big thing. And I decided, like, screw it. Like, I've committed this, you know. So just went full on into it. And God, it sucked the life out of me, dude. It's like, it's another thing about balance. You know, like my relationship was taking a hit. I was having to ask like friends for favors to help, you know, come help me. Like if that project went on any longer, like I'm sure I would have, you know, ticked off some of my friends or whatever, you know, and like the bank account took a hit. Like it was definitely not enough money, but I just wanted to make this thing as good as I can for not only for myself, but like for the portfolio and for the client.
Sure.
And at the end of it, it's so hard.
Yeah.
To like, no, it's not hard, but you know, it's you never know what you're going to get out of something. You know, I met really cool people after the installation. Like I did a live painting at the event, and I met some really cool artists, and like, you know, they want to hang out, and they're awesome dudes who work professionally, and they wanted to hang out with me, and I was like, what? All right, cool. You know, it was a wild experience. And yeah, it's you know, there's that mentality of like, don't say no to anything, and like take any opportunity you can get. And then there's that other mindset of like, you know, keep your boundaries and know when to say no.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a thing.
Yeah, knowing your worth is huge.
Yeah. And I learned after this, like, yes, I'm glad I met those guys, but it was not worth my time and effort that was put into it in the end as the project. But yeah, it's hard. Again, it's that balance, you know, like rejecting a project could lead to more projects, you know, but I think there's more projects and more time and, you know, whatnot. But yeah, it could decrease stability. But there is that mindset, I think, that we have where it's like, oh, if I say no to this project, then, you know, there's not another project out there. It's like you obviously got a project. So why do you think there's not going to be another one? You know?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, dude. That's another acting teacher told me that as well, where as motivation for something I was like using, what if I never get another audition or gig, and she said that very thing. She's like, Chad, the reason that didn't work is because that's not reality. Like the reason that didn't hit in you is that the fact is, even though like, yeah, you'll get up in your brain that there won't be another opportunity, there will be another opportunity. Yeah. There always will be another opportunity.
Yep.
But getting out of your head about that is so difficult. And then the nice thing about the service industry too is that, man, if you build that skill set as a bartender, server, whether it's like if you have that time where you can take off and only do your art, nobody judges you for coming back and being like, hey, man, can I start doing this again?
Yeah.
And whether it's that restaurant or another restaurant,
yep.
if you have that skill set, they're like, oh, yeah, dude, guess what? We have half of us are also musicians and artists and actors.
Dude.
And, you know.
Yeah, when I was doing this project, I would drive by. There's a coffee shop on the way, The Molecule Effect. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome little coffee shop. One of my buddies works there now, and then this other guy works there, and I was stopping by a lot, you know, to get coffee because I think I was telling you I was doing nights because the warehouse was busy and I needed all that space. So I'd start at like 5 p.m. and go all night. And so, you know, needed some coffee here and there. Yeah. And I went in and I saw this guy who was wearing like a lot of cool band T-shirts, bands I listened to, and I'd always comment on it. And then one day I was just like, yeah, what's your name? You know, blah, blah. And we were talking about stuff. And he was asking me like, where am I going to work all the time? I was telling him about the project. And then, you know, tell him about like how I thought I was going to make more money and I thought I was going to leave the bartending for longer. But I was telling him, I was like, I'm probably going to be back there soon. And he said, I had the exact same experience. He worked on, was it Love Island or one of the reality TV shows?
Oh, yeah.
He was like a producer and cameraman, or not, you know, one of those producers where you just like pay money, but like he helped produce this thing. And yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's feast or famine.
Oh,
you know,
for sure.
like you get a job here, and granted, I don't want to sound like an expert on this because I could be better with, you know, budget and my own money and my time, you know, and stuff like that. But like, yeah, man, there are a lot of artists that just bounce up and down.
Absolutely.
And that one job keeps them sane.
It does.
It really helps.
That's part of it, man. That work-life balance, like that work. In this case, that work-art balance is so important because, you know, and harken back to like if you're less stressed about your bills, you can be more looking forward to that next gig, more aware of it, more available for your art, you know, to pour your soul into it. And I will say, there's something about. Tell me if this is true in the art world, painting world, sculpting, all the art world in general. Mm-hmm. But you can get in your own small circle as an artist, and if you're not experiencing real people beyond that, I feel like your art gets pigeonholed as well.
Yes, 100%, dude.
Because that's definitely true as an actor. As an actor, if you're only hanging out with other actors who are a bunch of like very specific, outgoing, goofy weirdos,
Yeah.
great. I love all of them.
Yeah.
For the most part, the theater style, theater nerd, you're just going to replicate that as opposed to real people around you.
Yeah. No, that is true. And that's one thing I like about, especially working behind the bar. You got to like sit and talk with the people and like, get to know what a stable income sounds like and, living like. And I don't know, you also meet like a lot of cool people doing crazy shit that inspires you, makes you feel like your stuff could do something. Like, what was that one guy? I don't know if he still comes around, but he like was a videography dude.
Oh.
He like filmed a documentary for Maynard James Keenan's. Like,
Oh yes, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Wine thing, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
And he was telling me he just like slowly built up a portfolio and then just like kept doing it and like, I feel like you definitely get a varied experience that way. Because like I have my art friends and we all talk about the struggle, and then I go back to bartending and we all talk about the struggle, and it's nice. It's a cool balance. And you get those real people.
Real people, yeah,
dude.
exactly. That you can both inspire and it also remind you and of different things that
can remind you. Like, I think a big thing I talk with one of my buddies who does art. It's like you really sometimes you trade stability for passion or for enjoyment and vice versa. And like, you talk to some people at the bar and they hate their fucking life, dude. But they're making like a good amount and they're stable. And it's like, dude, it really isn't. I mean, dude, money helps, and all that. But like, what really, is nice is the people that you surround yourself with, how you view yourself and how you view your life, and sometimes all that takes is just like a perception check, someone to be like, hey man, your life's great. Shut the fuck up,
Yeah, dude. I completely agree with that, man. Well, dude, Tom, this has been, I just have enjoyed this conversation so much, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for the incredible piece of art that you created for us. We're going to continue to make T-shirts and stuff to get your art out there. Tell people what social media sites to follow you on, your website, how they can get commission you or buy some of your art.
Yeah, so it's Instagram at Tom J Berger. It's THOMJBERGER. I'm on there mostly. I don't think I even have any other social media. If I do, I've forgotten about it. But my website is on there as well. Yeah, man.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And throw out your girlfriend's stuff as well. Yeah. Where can they find her art?
Dude, please go check out Aiko Yugo. So AIKO. Fuck. Give me 1 second. Phone's dead. AIKOYOUGO. I kind of believe. Awesome local artists. I work right here.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah. Absolutely, man. Check them out. Please check out, anytime Tom has like any show or whatever, we will also post it on our Instagram. So be looking out for his stuff. And again, man, thanks so much, bro.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. This has been so fun.
So fun,
dude.
It. Awesome, guys. Oh, before we leave, fuck Chick-fil-A.
Fuck Chick-fil-A.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it, guys. We'll see you next time on Who the Fuck Closed Last Night. That was another episode of Who the Fuck Closed Last Night. Big thanks for Tom for coming out, not only doing our art, but doing this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed talking to each other. You can check out his art at Tom J. Berger on Instagram. That's THOMJBERGER. And big thanks to our boy Blake for another banger, man. He just keeps rolling them out. He just keeps giving us just the best music, man. If you guys want to give us some music, please send it to us on our Instagram or email us at WTFcloseLastNight@gmail. And please check out Blake's art and his music at Blake D. Wright, R-I-T-E, and his other account at InternetSlang_LTD for his music. Guys, thanks again. Look forward to seeing you next time and at the next Who the Fuck Closed Last Night party. Play us out, Blake.